it's a hard time. I don't think our nation has faced anything like this in a generation or two, and we'll be measured on how we respond to it.
So I want to go back to your suggestion on the 90 days.
Yes.
And see if I understand it. So I hear you saying, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so that's what I'm going to ask you, is that this problem budget is such a huge problem that it dwarfs everything else, and it should just be the solid focus.
It should be what we're working on, and it's so easy to get diverted here, but there's also to work on other things. But it also will save us some money. And if we can trim all of the extra stuff that we fool around with down here those other 30 days and save a little bit of cash, why not try it? I mean, if we don't get there, we don't get there. But at least let's have a goal to let's try to get it done.
Do you think that you need to do it that way, that it needs that much focus, that topic that you just devoted?
Well, I don't, certainly there aren't going to be a lot of bills that are going to create new programs and do a lot of spending. And so all of those bills, I assume, are going to go by the wayside if we focus ourselves on this one issue of how do we deal with our budget, and how can our Colorado government, I don't want to say get out of the way of the economy, but how can we help promote our economic development in Colorado? There's little else to talk about. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't any other bills to do, but that's what we ought to be about. I think that's what Colorado wants us to do now, and that's what we ought to be about. And besides, maybe I'd be done sooner.
Where is that money going to come from? I mean, where the $600 million? Like, where in the budget can that come from?
Maybe I should put a suggestion box out there. We're going to have to go to work. Obviously, it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful.
There's a Senate seat for sale.
I'm sorry, what?
Senate seat for sale.
Mike, what does all this do to the prospects of a transportation package?
I talked about that at lunch, and we have to digest that little packet we got. I was so hopeful because we were, I think, real close to a bipartisan approach on what we can do with transportation. And it is important. Not only does it the safety of our roads and bridges and so forth, but it's also it keeps people working, and that's what we need now, is both of them, and keeping people working. So I don't know how we can salvage that at this point. But we have to work our way through it and take a look, and we'll see what the feds are going to send down in the way of transportation dollars. Those might be coming through too. So I assume over the next couple of weeks we'll be able to digest the latest. We've got smart people there in the back room, and they're already going through it all. So, and then they'll tell me smart stuff I'm supposed to say. But yeah.
Do you regret how the FD didn't pass?
I actually, going all the way back then, I was one of those, which is why I didn't end up on the campaign trail for C or D. I said, if C is going to pass, we ought to pass Ref D. I've been a proponent of bonding forever, taking care of our highways and trying to cash fund a long-term asset just doesn't make sense. You don't do your house that way. You don't build a building that way. You buy your supplies and so forth that way. But if you're building a long-term asset, you spread it over the life of that asset. And so, citizens 5 to 10 years from now who are driving on that road are help them pay for it. And bonding is how we ought to do it, which was the nature of the proposal we were going to try to present this year, as some sort of bonding or COP proposal. And we have to. The good thing is it's a non-political year, and hopefully we can get all the parties together and put that aside and say we need to take care of Colorado's business. That's my hope. Yes, sir.
Representative Nate bouncing back again. This couldn't have been an easy decision for you to make, to have to file that complaint.
Was not.
Talk briefly about that, if you would, and just kind of put this whole thing into perspective in terms of Colorado. I mean, we've heard so much about Chicago recently, and just put it in perspective.
I tell folks, and that's why I'm a fan of Andrew Romanoff, when you sit in this chair or sit in his chair as Speaker of the House, your first duty is to the institution and the process and creating trust in government, not to party. And Andrew and I have been able to work well together over the years, and as we've faced a variety of scandals here and there. And anytime you get 100 people together, in any group of 100, I don't care where they are, a couple of them are going to have some problems now and again, and how we handle those is important. What we can't do is sweep them under the rug. Let's move forward, and the chips fall where they may. Now, I'm hopeful that the members are okay, and they're found to say, no, they didn't do anything wrong at all. That would be the best result. But what we can't do is say, we're not going to look at it. And so, yeah, it is a difficult choice to make, but, you know, it comes with the job.
I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
have one more question.
Sure.
You mentioned 2 reasons you're staying. One is the economy and the budget, and that could be a long time. So are we going to see you the rest of the session?
Well, if it's 90 days, well, yeah. After that, I sleep. You know, I don't want to get into the piece of, I'm committed to seeing those problems through. As I said, I just can't imagine, given the backdrop of what's happened in our caucus and then the budget thing, I can't imagine me walking out the door and saying, I don't care about this, I'm leaving. So, I still haven't told, and you probably watch it, I still haven't told my business partner. Last he knows, I was coming back today, so we'll work our way.
Well, you think the crisis will be over, the budget crisis, in 90 days?
Well, I think we'll be, it's going to be with us for a while, but hopefully we have our plan in place. You know, we have to balance this budget, this and next year's. We've got to go back and fix the hole in the current year budget and present next year's budget. There's a lot of work to be done, and if we can put our plan in place, that ought to be our goal. If it takes us 91 days, you know, I'm not good with that, but we ought to be aggressive with this. Let's save what money we can.
I'm a little curious, because I thought earlier in the week you had already rescinded your resignation.
I actually never filed it. And I said, at the time, because we were supposed to be having an election today, and at the time I said, well, I don't know how this is going to play out, so we're canceling the leadership election for today, and we're going to delay any decision. And now today is here, and it's time to say, you know, I expect to be here to work through all of these problems. If it takes the entire session, then that's what I will do. That's what I will do. We're not going to have a daily, is he coming or is he gone? And that's just even more unstable. Just even more unstable. So, you know, I'll be here for as long as we need be to work through this.
So are you going to be here for the session?
I expect to be,
Okay.
unless some magic wand is raised and all of these things are resolved in that time period. No. It wasn't in my great plans, but actually, you know, I had a thing in my basement that I hadn't worked on since I became the minority leader. I was working on, I was going to put a little wine cellar in there, and it's been sitting there collecting dust for 3 years. And when I made my announcement last week, the next day my wife said, hey, you got that project in the basement. I went down, I started working on it, and I'm back.
Projects can wait.
So are you taking your business partner out to a nice dinner tonight?
You know, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's, I hadn't got around to informing him of this decision yet. So,
Anybody else?
anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all for.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thanks.